Hey there everyone, Mazarok here, and today I am going to be doing the Beginner's Guide to Guardian Druid. Now this is going to be a little bit of a longer one than some of the other Beginner's Guide, because although Bear might be the easiest to just pick up and play, they are definitely not the easiest to pick up and master. There's quite a bit to them that can make you stand out among Guardian Druids in other ways where some people that don't do some of these things can don't, whatever. So I do want to cover a lot of things here, but what I'm not going to be covering is covenants, legendaries, soul binds, soul conduits. This is strictly what you need to know picking up a brand new bear. You're starting off at level 1 or 10 with an allied race. You're leveling it up. What do you need to know as you're going along? What do you need to know as you're going into Shadowlands and all of that fun stuff to try and have the best time that you can and actually learn and enjoy the spec while leveling instead of just hitting 60 and being like, I think I've hit swipe and thrash most of my way here and I have no idea what I'm doing. So, little footnote here, if you're going to comment going, in 20s we do this, well, no one's looking up a beginner guide to start getting into 20s. Let's face it. That's kind of how it is. A beginner's guide is for beginners. There might be some stuff that you learn here. There might be some tips and tricks that you learn here. Do stick around and go on. I am going to be doing a guide for Bear later on for timing 15s, my regular 9.2 Guardian guide, and things like that, where I do talk about covenants, legendaries, soul conduits, and soul binds, where the strengths and weaknesses are, and things like that. But this is strictly beginner's guide for Bear, where I go over the base kit. Before we start, any weak auras, any the LVUI profile, anything you want like that, is in the Discord link down below. You can just get it for free, not a problem, fully shared. And please like, comment, subscribe. It goes such a long way. This community has been growing so much, and I have all of you to thank for it. Thank you so much. Hugely appreciated. My guild, the Bloodstorm, is actively recruiting DPS. If you're looking for a new guild, you want to change, you want a fun, positive community, I'm looking to build an AOTC group, which we've got tanks and healers. We're mainly looking for DPS. So if you alt as a tank and you like DPS and you're maybe not happy with your guild, give me a shout. There is a Bloodstorm guild link down below, as well as the Discord link down below for that. So, and the Twitch link as well. I stream. If you like watching people stream, I stream. Yay! So let's get into a beginner's guide to Bear. So the first thing I go through when going through these guides is the passives, because not a lot of people know what the passives do. So let's break those down. Gore. Thrash, Swipe, Moonfire, Maul have a 15% chance to reset the cooldown on Mangle and cause it to generate an additional 4 rage. So when you're using Thrash, when you're using Swipe, Moonfire, your Mangle here will glow with a proc. You get 4 additional rage when you use it. Very, very nice. Infected Wounds. Mangle and Maul cause an infected wound in the target, reducing their movement speed by 50% for 12 seconds. Do note, if mobs in dungeons cannot be slowed or CC'd for any reason, this infected wounds will not pop on. So sometimes if you're wondering why you've hit Mangle and this green and red debuff does not appear on them, it's because they can't be CC'd and they do not get the debuff. Lightning Reflexes. You gain dodge equal to 100% of your critical strike from gear. Not the greatest, but whatever. Mastery, Nature's Guardian. It increases your maximum health. Increases healing received by the amount of your mastery. As you can see here, I have 13% mastery. Way too low, I know. I'm trying. It's been tough trying to get the gear that I need. And it also increases your attack power. Now here it is 26%, so we can assume it is about double your mastery. There it would be reduced incoming attack power buffs from that as the more mastery you get. The Hide reduces all damage you take by 6%. Ursine, Adept, Moonfire, Soothe, Remove Corruption, and Rebirth are all usable in bear form, and all damage taken in bear form are reduced by 10%. and Izera's Gift. Now, Izera's Gift comes from the 30 talent row here, which we will talk a little bit later, because there's also Feline Swiftness and the Astral Influence. So we'll talk about these when we get to that talent row a little bit later, because this is a shiftable passive with how that works. So when we look at stats, Critical Strike, you gain that dodge, haste, increases attack speed, spellcasting speed, energy generation, all that fun stuff. Mastery, increases your attack power, maximum health, healing received. This is a very, very good stat for bears, by the way. Versatility being one of your best stats, increases damage, healing done, and decreases damage taken. It's just a big triple threat for bear, because you do a lot of self-healing with frenzied regen and things like that. Increases your damage done, increases your healing done. All of these things add up. So if you're looking for stats to kind of focusing on when you get to higher levels, versatility and then haste and mastery are going to be all very solid. Versatility is something you want to prioritize just a little bit more than haste and mastery kind of combined. You want to find a nice happy medium. What those stats are going to be as you're getting into it is something you're going to have to figure out. If you feel like you're just not casting fast enough or things like that, you're going to want to increase your haste. If you're happy with your versatility, but you want to be a little bit more tanky, want more HP, you're going to want to go with mastery. But these are things that you can fine tune and min max as you go along. And then especially once you're picking covenants and legendaries and things like that, that's when we can really break down the stats and things like that. Crit is just not something that you're going to want to actively stack. And unfortunately, I just can't seem to get gear without crit. That's just how it is. Now, agility is very, very important. Excuse me. For bear, because it increases the magnitude of your attacks and abilities. It increases your dodge chance as well. But the more agility you have, the better everything scales. So you do really want to work with agility as much as possible. Bear has a lot of utility, and this is something we need to talk about right off the bat. There's one thing that makes Bear stand out versus any other tank, and that is they have a soothe. No other tank in this game has a soothe, so you can dispel all enrage effects. As you're leveling, this might not be as prominent. As you're getting into keys, this is huge. It's so nice to have a soothe on a tank, as well as a dispel, remove corruption. So you you can remove all curse and poison effects. Guess what? In Shadowlands right now, there's a ton of curse and poison effects in this game that can make you an incredibly useful tank to yourself and your party members. I can't tell you how many times I've gone with a pug healer and they're like, holy crap, you actually decurse me and yourself and you unpoison yourself? What? This is so good for removing damage, for not taking unnecessary damage, helping the party out. All of this. The two things here combined, oh, wonderful. But you also have In-Cap Roar as a wonderful bit of utility. So you shift into bear form, which you're going to be in bear form anyway. And you let go a deafening roar, in-capping all enemies within 10 yards for 3 seconds. Damage will cancel the effect, but this is an amazing group kick every 30 seconds. So if you're in dungeons like Halls of Atonement, Sanguine Depths, where you're just surrounded by casters and everybody, there's like 4 or 5 Curse of Suppressions going off, in-cap roar, boom, they're all kicked at once. While your party gets kind of reset up to start kicking and actually stunning things. Fantastic tool at your disposal. You also have, what am I thinking here? Entangling Roots. This is a little bit more difficult to pull off as a tank, but if you can find places to do so, it is incredibly useful. Then you get Ursal's Vortex. This is one of my favorite little bit of utility from the Restoration Affinity, where this is great for kiting. So what happens is you place your Ursal's Vortex, and you can start running away with Stampeding Roar. Stampeding Roar being fantastic utility here. So it increases your movements, the movement by 60% of all party members and things like that. Very, very nice. And then things get trapped in your Ursul's Vortex, allowing you to kite and get yourself kind of resituated. So let's just go ahead and sit, because I'm a cute little bear by a pond. And then there is, excuse me, Maim is something that you can use with Feral Affinity, although this is a little bit more difficult to pull off, and we'll talk about that later. Balance Affinity gives you Typhoon. Typhoon is a pushback. This is really, really good to take. On Sanguine Weeks, when you get to that point, when you're starting to learn the tank keys and you're getting in the Sanguine Weeks, and you need to push things out of Sanguine so they stop healing, Typhoon is a great bit of utility for you to work with and use there. All right. On Sanguine Weeks, when you get to that point, when you're starting to learn the tank keys and you're getting in the Sanguine Weeks, and you need to push things out of Sanguine so they stop healing, Typhoon is a great bit of utility for you to work with and use there. Let's now talk baseline defensives. How do you, as a bear, keep yourself alive? Well, you have a couple of different options here. Let me open up the spell book. Barkskin. Now, I have this down to a 32-second cooldown with conduits and talents, but this is a baseline 1 minute talent, if I'm not mistaken, or 40 some odd seconds. I'd have to double check it, but I'd have to also remove the conduits and things like that. But it's more along the baselines of 1 minute, where your skin becomes tough as bark, reducing all damage you take by 20%, and preventing damage and delaying your spell cast. This is something that I think all druids get baseline, but bear is very, very strong. It's usable while stunned, frozen, incapped, feared, asleep, and in all shapeshift forms. This is your very good baseline. You just need a quick damage reduction. 20%, very, very strong, very nice to have. Survival Instincts is your next one. Let me find it in the... Survival Instincts. Now this here, you have 2 charges and it reduces all damage you take by 50% for 6 seconds. This is a 2-minute recharge time. Very, very strong. Having 2 charges of these, and you'd be surprised how often that you get these back. Very, very strong to have. Great defensive. Now what's your active mitigation? You've got 2 that you can work with. Iron Fur increases your armor by a certain amount for 7 seconds, and you can stack these. I have gotten up to, without really trying, depending on what's going on and the certain builds and keys, I've easily gotten to 7 to 8 stacks of Iron Fur at once, being able to work it in with Convoke and all this fun stuff without necessarily trying. And trust me, when you have 7 to 8 stacks of Iron Fur, it is absolutely equal to a higher end defensive. Are you going to be able to get 7 to 8 stacks of Iron for all of the time? No. But this is something you absolutely want to keep up at all times. Having Iron Fur up is basically priority number 1 when you're doing dungeons and things like that. This is one of your main rage spenders, and not one of, it is your main rage spender. And you should actively be trying to keep 1 to 2 stacks of Iron Fur up at all times. The second one that you have is Frenzied Regeneration. Now Iron Fur is off the global cooldown. I need to say that. Frenzied Regen is on the global cooldown. I wish they changed that, but whatever. What it does is it heals you for 32% of your health over 3 seconds, and it increases your healing received by 20%. So if you are in trouble, you immediately get down to 30% health, or something happens, you hit Frenzied Regen, you can tell your healer, hey, I've got frenzied up. And they can spam a heal or 2 on you, and that heal will be increased by 20%. This is a very, very strong, especially worked in tandem with a healer that knows what they're doing, or knows when how to quickly pop you up. Although if they hit you up to 30%, if you're down to 30%, chances are a decent healer is going to start putting something on you. So something to watch out for. So keep up your stacks of Iron Fur, and do not be afraid to use your Frenzied Regen. What I will do sometimes if I know a bigger hit is coming and I don't have Barkskin or Survival Instincts up, I will try to get some stacks of Iron Fur up, keep enough rage for a Frenzied Regen, and right before it's gonna hit, I will hit Frenzied Regen right before that ability is gonna hit. So as I immediately drop, I'm already healing, and I don't have to worry about the global cooldown or worried about the time spent below 50% health, because I drop below 50% health, and I'm immediately starting to heal that 32% health back, and working it in that way, and then working in my damage reductions as we go along. Bear is incredibly tanky when you kind of work and play it right. Now, what are some of your main damage dealing abilities? Thrash is the one that you need to... You're going to be pressing this a lot, especially once you get your legendaries in Mythic Plus. So you strike all enemies, dealing bleed damage over time and additional bleed damage over 15 seconds. When applied in bear form, this effect can stack up to 3 times, and it generates 5 rage. 5-second cooldown, incredibly strong and great for threat. This is the best thing that I have for threat generation going into polls and anything like that. Swipe is your main spammable. Main spammable. There we go. Swipe all nearby enemies. You inflict physical damage, and dealing reduced damage beyond 5 targets. These are your 2 main AoE abilities. Mangle. So mangle the target, you deal additional damage against bleeding enemies. So if you want to hit Thrash, single target, and then make sure you have Thrash stacks up. So when you hit Mangle, you deal more damage. Moonfire is very underrated, especially for how much damage it does over time. Very solid for damage, but also its range. This is great for pulling a single target or something that you need that's very far away. Not a lot of tanks have like very long range abilities. It usually ends at 20 yards. Moonfire being 40 yards is absolutely a fantastic little bit of utility to have. Love it to death. Maul. So this requires bear form, costs 40 rage, and you just deal a lot of physical damage at a single target. This is more utilized in raids than it's going to be utilized in Mythic Plus. You will press this on tyrannical bosses from time to time if you know you're safe or things like that and you have Iron Fur. But in Mythic Plus, in keys and things like that, you're going to be spending more rage on Iron Fur than you are going to be spending it on Maul. Especially in AoE scenarios, you're really not going to worry about pressing Maul when you want more stacks of Iron Fur. And Swipe hits all targets versus Maul just hitting one target for more damage. So something to look out for there. Now let's talk talents. The 15 row. So here I have Blood Frenzy. This is a fantastic Mythic Plus talent for generating rage, everything like that in keys. Very, very strong to take. I enjoy it. Thrash also generates 2 times each time it deals damage. So the more bleeds you put out, this is, again, better in AoE scenarios than it is single target. So every time that Thrash deals damage, you gain more rage, gaining more Iron Fur stacks, and it just all works in synergy with one another. Brambles is a very strong ability to take as a beginner as well. It absorbs just more damage and reflects. So here I have 148 damage at level 60 from each attack. While Bark Skin is active, Brambles also deals nature damage to all nearby enemies every second. This is just a very nice passive to take that's going to reduce incoming damage and cause more damage every time you use your Bark Skin. So depending on your playstyle, as you're starting into this journey, you might feel a little rage starved. If you are, go with Blood Frenzy. If you're not feeling rage starved and you're feeling like maybe you're overcapping or you're not using enough rage, try Brambles. These are 2 very, very good options as you're getting your Guardian Druid journey going. Now 25 is the movement row. Now I prefer Wild Charge. Wild Charge gives you a straight up charge. Pick a target, warrior charge directly into it as a bear. Very nice, but it also allows you to do a couple of different things. So when you're in travel form, now I'm flying here so I can't do it, it'll give you a big leap forward. If you're in Boomkin form for any reason, you will disengage back like a hunter. I actually do not know. I think it's a charge for Feral Druid as well, eh? Let's put this here. Oh no, you leap behind the enemy and you daze them for 3 seconds as a kitty cat. So something to look forward as well. And I think in humanoid form, it brings you to a target like Leap of Faith, like a reverse Leap of Faith. I like this because I like having the charge. It also saves you from knockback abilities or things like that. So if you get knocked back in Mythic Plus, in Raid, or whatever, you can always just charge right back in. Although there is an absolute case to be made for renewal. Instantly heals you for 30% of your maximum health, usable in all shapeshift forms, 1.5 minute cooldown. This is very, very strong. If you're feeling like you're just not tanky enough, or you, like the healers aren't keeping up, or you want a little bit more of a safety net, go with Renewal. If you do not feel you like the mobility, where I'm at now, I do not feel like I need Renewal. I feel like I much prefer to have more movement-based abilities, because I find movement-based abilities to be very, very underrated in this game. The other one is Tiger Dash. So this replaces Dash from kitty form, which you shift into a cat, increasing your movement speed by 200%, gradually reducing over 5 seconds. This is great from getting from point A to point B, and for insanely quick kiting if you're not in range of being meleeed when you turn into cat form. Situationally, okay, but I would stick with Wild Charge or Renewal. The 30 row I want to talk about last for specific reasons. Number 35, you do have a couple of options here. You have Mighty Bash, which gives you a 4-second stun on a cooldown. I have a Conduit that reduces the CD down on this down to 49 seconds, but it's 1 minute baseline. We have Mass Entangle, 25 minute cooldown, roots the target and all enemies within 15 yards in place for 30 seconds. Damage may interrupt the effect. This is a very nice bit of utility, which if you can pull it off as bear, do so. But the thing is casting this will take you out of bear form. So you want to make sure that you're not being whacked to death when you use it. But it is a strong ability if you can pull it off well enough. But I prefer just sticking with Mighty Bash kind of baseline. The 4-second stun is very, very nice. But there is also Heart of the Wild. So Heart of the Wild is a new talent in Shadowlands here, where abilities associated with your chosen affinity are substantially empowered for 45 seconds. So for me, with Restoration Affinity being right here, healing of your Restoration spells increased by 30% and the mana cost reduced by 50%. So here you're going to pick an affinity on the 30 row, which we're going to talk about later, and this really makes you into a supercharged, not as good as actually speccing into it, but very close, into your chosen affinity. This has a 5-minute cooldown and can be utilized very, very well in conjunction with the affinities, which we will talk about in a little bit. Now, 40 row. Soul of the Forest. Mangle generates more rage, deals more damage. Not that great. Galactic Guardian, really good in single target, actually. Your damage has a 5% chance to trigger a free automatic Moonfire on that target. Once it occurs, the next Moonfire you cast generates rage and deals 300% increased direct damage. Very, very nice. Good for raid. Although Soul of the Forest isn't bad for raid, but if I'm not mistaken, Galactic Guardian comes out ahead. Then we have the dungeon talent. Incarnation, Guardian of Ursoc. So this replaces Berserk. It is a 3-minute cooldown, and it is an improved bear form, which grants you the benefits of Berserk, causes Mangle to hit up to 3 targets, and increases your maximum health by 30%. This lasts for 30 seconds. You can freely go from forms and things like that. But what this does is this allows you to spam Thrash. You can just spam Thrash, dealing tons of damage, applying bleeds, and just going in like crazy. As well, if you need more... See, I'm generating rage. I'm not even hitting anything. I'm just hitting Thrash, generating rage, and getting easy stacks of Iron Fur without having to do much. And Mangle will, if you hit Mangle, you'll hit 3 targets, generating 3 times more rage. So you generate 30 rage per Mangle, but you won't hit all targets. It is an insanely strong ability that in Mythic Plus, especially combined with the Ursoc's Fury Remembered Lego, is incredibly tanky, but we're not talking legendaries here. This is an insanely fun 3-minute cooldown to press. Press it when you can. Now, as you're leveling on your journey, Earth Warden is going to be your default 45 pick. Until you get certain things, aka your tier set legendaries and things like that, and I'll tell you why. So most of the damage you are going to take as a tank in dungeons is going to come from auto attacks. Believe it or not, yes. Where a tank buster might actually take your health in larger chunks, you just don't deal with as many of them. And most of your incoming damage in pulls and dungeons and things like that is actually going to be incoming auto attacks. So whenever you deal direct damage with Thrash, you gain a charge of Earth Warden, reducing the damage of your next auto attack you take by 30%. Earth Warden may have up to 3 charges. This is incredibly powerful and actually does a lot of damage reduction over the course. Course of an encounter. I know it isn't sexy, but it is incredibly powerful. Now, when you get your tier set, in later on, every time I swap talents, it changes me away from Bearthorn. You're gonna take Survival of the Fittest. Main thing being, you want to get that Barkskin cooldown reduced by a bunch, because little hint, the tier set, when you gain 4 seconds of Berserk whenever you hit Barkskin. Super nice to have. On your 50 row, you do have an option with a defensive raid option. Rend and Tear is going to be your kind of set it and forget it. You can get through raid with it. You can get through everything with it. So each stack of Thrash reduces the target's damage to you by 2% and increases your damage to them by 2%. So 3 stacks, 6%. This is a very nice, easy damage reduction and damage increase that you can apply to single target, AoE, all of it. It works very nicely. Over the course of an encounter, it will add up to a lot, and you can just work with it that way. Although you can choose this is single target. Pulverize. 45-second cooldown. It's a devastating blow that consumes 2 stacks of your Thrash on the target to deal a chunk of physical damage and reduce the damage they deal to you by 35% for 10 seconds. So this is a very strong 35% DR. So if you're looking at maybe progging dungeon encounters, this is mostly for single target. Or things where you're taking take busters in raid and things like that. This isn't something I work on prototype Pantheon, but like Skolex, would be very, very strong. If you're looking to play it more defensively, you could work Pulverize into your rotation. But most of the time, you're just going to hit Rend and Tear. Kind of how it works. So let's talk about this 30 row here and what the affinities do. So the affinities. Restoration affinity is my personal go-to. I just said it, forget it. I feel more tanky. I like Ursol's Vortex. You gain Rejuvenation, Swiftmend, and Wild Growth. So in keys, you can help heal, you can help off heal in weeks like Grievous stacks and things like that. You can really be of service. And Izera's Gift heals you for 3% of your maximum health every 5 seconds. If you're at full health, an injured party or raid member will be healed instead. Just bland but very strong utility. Who doesn't like an extra healer and things like that? And in raid, if your co-tank currently has threat of the boss and you are not in threat of dying, aside from the fact that there's no healers available, you Heart of the Wild Restoration Affinity, you pop a bunch of rejuvenations, regrowths, life growths, you do as much as you can, and you help out. Because why not? If the lack of healing is literally going to be what's going to kill your raid in a certain instance, hitting Heart of the Wild and performing a bunch of extra free healing when you're not doing anything as a tank aside from hitting things. But let me say this. If you're in a raid scenario and literally it's your bear DPS that determines whether or not you're going to kill the boss, you have bigger problems than what talents you're taking. So that is something to just go with. I love Restoration Affinity. I think it works great. Feral Affinity is a lot of fun. It allows you to... Now, you can turn into a cat anyway, but it gives you access to the Rake, Rip, and Maim abilities. It increases your movement speed baseline by 15% as well. So, Rake. Rakes the target, adds bleeds. Very, very nice. What else does it do? Rip. Sorry. Rip is a combo point. Spender, that puts a nice big bleed. Kind of okay, nothing crazy. And then we go over to Maim. Maim, I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, is a nice big stun. So it's this combo point finisher. So you build a couple combo points and you get to Maim. So adding a stun, these are situationally useful. But what happens here is you get to use Rake, Rip, and Swipe, and some of the other things that you need to do to apply bleeds and things like that, and increasing damage. So what you sometimes hear is something called cat weaving, where when you are not in danger of taking damage, of dying, your co-tank in a raid has all the threat, and you don't have to worry about anything, and you want to add extra damage, you're safe, but you don't need to be in bear form. You hit cat form, and then you just start putting a bunch of bleeds, and you start doing a bunch of damage. Oh, hey, it's about my turn to taunt again. Boom, I'm a bear. Taunt. Good to go. So cat weaving is a fun way, a challenging but fun way, in which you can add a lot of damage into a raid scenario, into a Mythic Plus scenario, depending on phasing and things like that, because there are phases where the tank is in no less danger than anyone else of dying. There's no boss hits or anything coming in. Boss might be phased. Mist of Tyrna Scythe is something that actually does come up when the tree goes down and puts the debuff on Ingra. I think it's Ingra or Droman or whatever. And it's just damage time. Go. There's no damage incoming at that point. There's literally no damage. So cat weave and just rake and put a bunch of bleeds and just add a bunch, because that'll add up to more damage than just your regular bear form. Balance Affinity gives you access to the Boomkin, the chicken. I'm a skinny chicken because I'm a Zandalari, but the fat chicken. And then you gain Astral Influence. Increases the range of all of your abilities by 3 yards. This is kind of nice, but I mean, it's not game breaking or anything. Gives you access to Moonkin form, Star Surge, Starfire, Sunfire, and Typhoon. All around, this is just really good. It's good for range. If you're choosing Night Fae and you want to convoke something, convoking as a balance affinity is not bad at all. It's a lot of damage. It'll give you a lot of the abilities and stuff that you can work into, that you can't work into convoke, because I do believe it gives you Starfire. It gives you like access to all of the spells, if I'm not mistaken, during balance, even if you don't get them there. So it is something that you can do, and you can weave into balance affinity. Maybe you instead of cat weaving, you want to hit chicken form, hit Heart of the Wild, and just do a bunch of range damage at a target. Maybe a fight encounters this, and this is where these little weavings and all of that can go into. They're not required of you, especially if you're not doing mythic raiding or anything like that. If you're just going into heroic or anything like that, you're not. No one's gonna get mad at you for being like, man, you're not cat weaving during this. Like, oh my goodness. But these are things that you can do that will actually add a lot more damage over time, a lot more healing over time, that will make you stand out as an absolutely great Druid player. Just because you spec into Guardian doesn't mean your other forms and shapeshifts are completely useless or irrelevant anymore. And you can really work that in to have a lot of fun. You know, work in your weaving. Change these around. On heavy weeks where tanks get hit a lot, I prefer Restoration Affinity. I got a Kite, Ursol's Vortex, Necrotic. I'll go Restoration Affinity. Sanguine weeks, I'll think about going Balance, because I just don't want things to heal up in Sanguine. Raiding, I go Feral. Very, very strong. And it just kind of all works around there. It's really, really nice. And I hope this guide has helped you kind of understand Bear a little bit more, what it can do, how it can work. This is kind of the setup here. If you're thinking about the 40 row, I would just work with Incarn all around. It's very, very strong. 3 minutes gives you 30% maximum health. Just lets you just spam Thrash. Very, very good. But you can go Galactic Guardian. You can go Soul of the Forest. Mangle generating more range and dealing more damage. There's nothing wrong with it at all. So that is my beginner's guide to Guardian Druid. I will be doing a 9.2 guide to Guardian Druid. I just don't feel like I'm geared enough to be able to do that. I don't have tier set yet. I just haven't put enough attention into Bear. I have been timing 15s. I have been in 15s. So I feel confident enough. I'm just not quite there yet to be able to say, hey, here's the guide for how it works. And my Bear also hasn't seen the inside of a raid, so that's something how I want to change, to be able to get a feel on how Bear feels inside Sepulchre of the first ones, and Castle Nathria and things like that upcoming in Season 4. So just some things that I got to work with and change there. But the 9.2 guide is going to be coming out in a little bit. But I hope this guide helped you out understand the basics and the fundamentals of bear and what can make them very, very, very strong and just be all around good for you. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you guys are enjoying 9.2 as much as I am. Enjoy your day. Thank you very much for your time.